How do you prove things though? Because
that I'm an artist, I can show you that I can do it.
Well, how do you know that's not some kind of illusion in your consciousness? How do you know you're not deceiving yourself? You know dreams. When you dream, you think you're experiencing something, but you're not actually experiencing something.
Yeah.
So how do you know that your reality isn't some type of dream experience?
I'm judging from reality, that I'm talking about this reality that we are in.
Right, but you could be wrong about that reality, right? Because you don't know everything, and I don't know everything.
We don't know
so if we
everything,
trust in ourselves, we could always be wrong, right? Because we have limited information, and therefore there could be something we're not aware of that could invalidate everything we think we know.
So I really don't like this subject of God and no God.
Well, you know that God exists. Everybody knows that God exists, but you don't want to acknowledge Him.
A human has always needed a God, so throughout history, we always created a God.
Well, people have created false gods, but everybody knows that the one true God exists, but they suppress the truth about Him, and they push down the knowledge that they have of Him.
The real one, the Christian one or the Muslim one?
The Christian one revealed in the Bible.
But the others are wrong.
Right, the Christian God reveals that the other gods do not exist.
Should I believe you or believe them or believe them?
Well, you can look at how the other religions contradict themselves and refute themselves, and you can look at how God reveals to us how we should love Him with all of our minds, and we shouldn't be illogical and refute ourselves. What was that?
How many Bibles there are?
There's a lot of translations, different versions of translations. Yeah, but it's in all of them. It's the same basic message about how to be reconciled to God and about who God is.
Do you know about Zarathustra religion back in 3,500 years before Christianity?
What religion?
This is Zarathustra. Zarathustra was just a nice guy like Buddha in Persia. And all the basics of Christianity and Islam and Judaism, they're all there created by that guy, that nice guy.
No, well, it didn't come from that guy, because Christianity comes from the knowledge of God, and God has revealed Himself to humans throughout history.
This is 3,500 years, 3,500 before Jesus.
Right, but Jesus wasn't the beginning of God's work in the world. God created Adam and Eve, the first humans, and He was revealing Himself to humans the entire time from the very beginning of the world. Christianity, like belief in the one true God, did not begin with Jesus. It has always been here.
Yeah, of course.
Because God created the first humans.
Of course, didn't begin with Jesus.
Yeah, so it's irrelevant that some person taught similar things to Jesus before Jesus existed. Jesus has always existed as God. But He existed as with a human body, both God and man. He started existing in that way at a certain point in time in history.
And all this, after all, without any belief, all these are stories said by man or not by human.
Well, your entire life is a story that you tell yourself that you think happened. You have all these memories of things that have happened in the past of your own life, but you can't even prove that they happened. How do you know that you didn't come into existence 5 seconds ago with a bunch of memories that of things that didn't actually happen? Maybe they're just illusions in your consciousness. Maybe beings just pop into being with memories of things that never happened. How can you trust your mind if your mind is limited and doesn't have all the facts about reality, and you could always be wrong? You can't trust only your mind. You have to trust in a worldview in which the all-knowing being reveals to your mind the true nature of reality through the Bible and through the innate knowledge of Himself that He creates you with. The innate knowledge of the nature of reality that He creates you with. Deep down, you know that God exists, and that knowledge that He created everything in an orderly manner, that justifies your beliefs in things. That's how you can have knowledge even as an unbeliever. Even though you don't say that you believe in God, you can still know things because deep down you know that God created an orderly universe and that He promotes truth. That's how you can justify your senses perceiving things correctly. If God doesn't exist to justify our beliefs, then you don't even know that I exist right now. Maybe I'm just a projection of your consciousness. Maybe you're talking to yourself, you know? How do you prove that any of these people actually exist? Maybe they just exist in your mind. And maybe you're the only mind that exists.
Just the common knowledge that we have now, the criteria of knowledge that we have as a human.
Well, how do you know what's knowledge and what's not? How do you know what's true and what's not true?
The truth is very relative. There's no absolute truth.
Well, is it absolutely true that there's no absolute truth? Because it seems like you just made a statement of absolute truth when you said there's no absolute truth. If there's no absolute truth, then the statement you just made is not true all the time, and therefore absolute truth does exist.
Just know that relativity is more likely to be accurate.
Relativity?
Yeah.
Well, no, because there has to be an objective standard to measure things by that doesn't change, that isn't relative, so that you can...
Doesn't change.
What was that?
Only change that's consistent.
Well, God doesn't change, and His law doesn't change.
Okay,
His law for us right now is not changing. He's established it, and we have to recognize everything's based on faith. You put faith in my existence, that's how you're talking to me right now. I put faith in your existence. I put faith in God's existence. But you're not justified in believing, you're not justified in putting faith in my existence as long as you're trusting in a worldview in which there's no omniscient being to tell you what's true about reality. Because you can't prove in your own worldview that I exist. That's why you shouldn't trust in that worldview. You shouldn't trust in a worldview in which the only type of consciousness is limited and doesn't have all the facts. Does that make sense?
So if you don't believe in what is tangible and we can judge, you believe on something that's no trace of.
Well, you believe in intangible things too, right? You believe in love. You said you have love, so love is not a thing you can touch and taste. You know, it's a conceptual thing. It's a spiritual thing. So there are non-physical things in the world like math.
But
it's
love
not
is
physical.
Larger than the Christian God.
Well, how do you define what love is? Without revelation from the all-knowing being to tell you it's love, it's just defined.
It's wider, larger, because you're saying the God is only through Christianity. Everybody else is wrong.
Right, because He reveals that they're wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I have to trust in what the all-knowing being says. If I trust in my own mind, I can't even prove that you exist right now. And how do we define what love is with human opinions when the psychopath has a different definition of love than you or I? So someone could say, I'm a loving person, and actually be committing these atrocities and call it love, and you wouldn't be able to say in an objective sense that they're wrong. All you could say is, it's my preference that you don't do that. And so all you're left with is preferences. I like pineapple on pizza, you don't. I like chocolate ice cream, you like vanilla ice cream. Preferences are not morality. Morality is, you ought to do this. It is a law being given. So there must be a lawgiver to give us the laws of, you ought not do this. You should not do this. That's what morality is. But if you don't have God, you just have a bunch of preferences. I like this, you don't like that. The psychopath likes killing people. You don't like killing people. You have a different definition of love than the psychopath.
True.
So that's why we need to trust in what God reveals about love, because if we define it ourselves, there's just billions of different opinions from billions of different people about what love looks like.
I don't agree with the limited God.
The limited what?
A limited God.
Well, He's not limited. I mean, He's only limited in the sense that He has certain characteristics, but there's that you're just arbitrarily deciding that that's bad.
You're limiting Him to Christianity.
Right, because that's the way He reveals Himself. If like all these religions, they contradict each other. They can't all be true at the same time. That would violate the laws of logic.
Well, there has always been a religion, man.
Right, everybody's religious because everybody's puts faith in something. Like, you're religious because you trust in your own mind. You trust in yourself. Your religion is self-worship.
No, I mean, there was always a religion that's for a community, for not just a single person.
Well, everybody has their own religion.
So let's come back to abortion. So you're against abortion?
Right, because people are created in the image of God. We reflect God. God told us to respect humans because they reflect Him. They bear His image. He's the one who's the ultimate being who's worthy of all the glory, praise, and honor and devotion. We have to do what he says, and we should respect people who bear his image, who reflect him, who are his representatives on earth.
How about guns?
Guns?
Do you do anything about guns?
Well, guns are private property that people have the right to own, and the government should not regulate what people own, because in biblical law, in God's law...
They're using guns to kill people, and America has the highest number equal to the entire world of killing, firearm killing.
Well, we have to. I base everything off God's law, and so God's law never gives the government the right to prohibit what people can own.
But he gives to people guns to kill other people.
No, people should not use guns to murder people. God says you should not murder. Right, but
used to kill people.
But the problem is the heart of the person and not the weapon or the tool they're using. Because someone can murder somebody with a rock. What are we going to do? Ban rocks? Are we going to ban knives? Because
we're talking about guns. Let's make it simple. We're talking about guns that kill people.
Right, and knives kill people too. And there's a lot of different objects you can use to kill someone. The root problem is the person's heart. So we need to change the heart. We need to call people to follow God's law, to follow Jesus, who can transform them into somebody who doesn't want to hurt other people, but wants to love them. Through the love of Jesus, people can be transformed so they can use guns to defend the weak. Guns are something that can be used for good.
Thank you.
Okay.
Nice talking to you.
Yeah, thanks for talking.